All right. So here we are. So this barred attorney facing jail time. We know what happened in regards to that, and we know that that went to the appeal court, and the appeal court did what?
The appeal court set aside the findings of dishonest and fraudulent conduct, which were a big deal. I mean, the GLC had like 90 something findings, and 90 something of them were about dishonest conduct and basically that I fabricated a transaction. Today, the Gleaner is very politely calling it a failed business transaction. I was not in any business transaction with Mr. Northover. Mr. Northover made a loan, and I was the lawyer who prepared the agreement for the loan. The loan was not repaid, and it became a whole fantastic tale of lawyer stealing from client. That was how the GLC determined it and ordered me to repay him the monies he had loaned plus interest on it, and it came to a fantastic sum of almost 600 and odd thousand US dollars. I appealed that.
Okay, so you appealed the GLC ruling, and you appealed the amount that was levied against.
No, I appealed the GLC ruling, but at the time my attorney said, and I was being represented by very able Queen's Counsel Lord Gifford, to whom I'm greatly indebted. But my attorney's viewpoint was that the findings were so terrible that you could not appeal against the findings and appeal against sanction at the same time. And he was of the view that I need only appeal against the findings, because if that is set aside, then the sanction would be immediately open to review, because the sanction was based entirely on the horror of the findings. And when we were before the Court of Appeal and he was seeking to make that point that, well, if she did all these things, she should be disbarred. We couldn't come here and say, okay, maybe she did all those things, but it should have a different result. The allegations were so terrible, the findings were so outrageous that you couldn't say that there is some lesser penalty that could be applicable to behavior of that sort. The Court of Appeal said to him when he took that position, they said, but we can set aside the findings and we have the power to also look at the sanction, because when it comes before us, it would be like a rehearing of the entire case. And we have the power to do right by her, because in fact, they put a question to him, are you saying she should go back into the process? Because if the findings are set aside, one result would be like a retrial. You go back down to the GLC. And the Court of Appeal seemed equally appalled as I was at being taken to the GLC a second time. Well, my dear sir, the Court of Appeal set aside all of the findings of dishonest conduct and so on. But when it came to the sanction, they said they don't know what the GLC had in their thinking for that sanction, and they are not going to disturb it because they think that it's open to them, or it was open to the GLC. It can't be the GLC. There are many things wrong with the judgment, and even I try to explain it. I can't give it a rational explanation because there is none. If you set aside the findings, there should have been a reopening of the sanction, because in the even before the GLC, the findings are done in one trial and the sanctions are set in another hearing.
Okay.
So when the Court of Appeal did it, the Court of Appeal should have done the findings in their first look, and then invite us back to speak on sanctions, which is how the GLC does it.
But
they didn't. They just left the sanction in place, expressing an opinion that the conduct is reckless or could be regarded as negligent, and they left it there.
But let me ask you. So, all right. So the GLC ruled and said that you misbehave yourself.
Worse than misbehave. They said I was criminal.
Okay. All right. You appeal that. Your attorney took it to and it says, when we look at it, you are not criminal. Correct?
Yes.
You were not reckless. So they put that aside.
No, they didn't say. The Court of Appeal didn't look at reckless because reckless is not a complaint.
They looked at the criminal.
They were looking at criminality because it was all about fraud. Yes.
So And they said that you did not act fraudulently.
Right.
Okay. So if that is so, and that was the basis of why the GLC had
imposed that sanction.
Yeah, if they impose that, then if them say they never find them, should us remove it.
They should have. And my attorney thought that at the very least they would have said, well, come back now and let's speak about what punishment is appropriate for the whatever level of misconduct is evident. No. They said they exercised all boldness in disturbing all of the terrible findings, and they left the punishment right there.
But that don't make no sense.
None whatsoever. But in God's world and in God's order of things, I needed to go. You were talking about process. It seems I needed to go through that terrible experience of injustice in order to be a credible voice speaking against the poor administration of justice that people have had to contend with in this nation.
So it's all right. Let me just.
And it has fired me up in a person because I can't stop talking about it.
Yeah, but me understand something. So it's like let's put it in a school context. All right, you misbehave yourself, and the teacher says you need to go to the principal, and them say go to the principal. You do all of these rules. You go 1, 2, 3. When you go with the evidence and you go to the principal said, you never did that, you never did that, you never did that. So what the teacher did, them say, no, make
reverse.
They reverse it.
Yes.
So if they reverse it, then you can't go back in class.
Right.
But they reverse it, but you never get to go back in class.
Nope.
So that don't make no sense.
Remember, that rejection is a part of
the process.
Yes.
But
and there's no point asking me because you'd have to go ask Justice McDonald Bishop, who called me a woman of business.
No, but
they would have to explain it, and they must know that they are going to have to explain it.
Yeah, because it is like, okay, if I'm just having school board and they have the ethics and they send it to the human resource. We're getting ready to expel somebody from school. So they expel it, but you can't expel. So they carry it to the board and the board looks at it and says, no, based on the evidence. So this boy cannot be expelled from school or this girl. So you're reinstated. But you're reinstated, but
stop trying to understand it.
Yeah,
the highest level of sanction that the GLC can impose is to disbar an individual. That is the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
You would imagine that there is some proportionate relationship between conduct and sanction.
Mm-hmm.
And it is so. The Constitution requires it, the law requires it, the law of God requires it.
Yeah.
But in my case, none of that is evident. I leave it right where it is. And I was not going to go to the Privy Council.
Yeah, because you say on
that matter.
Yeah.
Because I have no confidence in the Privy Council as my court of last resort. I saw what they did with our carousel appeal that went there. During the pandemic days, they dismissed it without hearing, without telling us. We don't even have a signed order. They said it was not of sufficient public importance, even while persons in Jamaica were struggling to go on the internet for school and other important things. So the Privy Council is not a place for me.
All right. So now this headline, the jail time thing that they're asking about, is about what?
Well, people who owe money in Jamaica must know that that headline could easily be theirs.
Okay.
So the Court of Appeal said, having overturned
overturned the hearing.
They overturned the findings of the GLC.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not liable to pay him the money that he lost.
Mm-hmm.
Quite without any foundation in law that I can recognize. The Court of Appeal said the fees which my client had paid me, this now is not the complainant, because the complainant was not my client.
Mm-hmm.
The fees which my client paid me in the transaction, I must give it to the complainant.
On what basis?
That he suffered a loss. him lose money, so I can't be paid by my client. So that smaller sum, they didn't slash the award of compensation to him, which is how the Gleaner puts it. They substituted a whole new award on a different principle of law. Because if I was the reason, if I was the reason he lost his money, then he should get back all his money.
Mm-hmm. But you were not the reason.
But I was not the reason he lost his money. He lost his money because somebody who borrowed it didn't pay it back.
Mm-hmm.
But the Court of Appeal says the fees that I collected, which was $30-something thousand, I am to give him back. And a check which was drawn to him by my husband for $15,000 because he wanted to do something before funds were available. And my husband was persuaded to say, all right, I'll give you this to hold. When the monies come in, the whole deal fell apart before any funds came in. So that check was $15,000 plus the $30-something thousand
So
of my fee. The court said I must give him my fees and honor the check that had been given to him. That's a whole new type of justice. So when I speak here, Percy, and I make my comments about the quality of justice in this country, the quality of work we get out of the judiciary, I am someone who has experienced it. I'm not guessing. I'm not following anybody else's opinion. I have experienced it. I've sat in court, heard the judge go over one of our carousel applications, seem to be understanding the points. And then one day we show up and he said, I'm giving judgment in half an hour. Finish up your case and I will write my decision and you can have it by January. This was December 2018.
And now we're in 2023.
We're in 2023 and I've right no judgment. And in the meantime, the case went all the way through the Court of Appeal to the Privy Council. And here we are. But I see they have me in my carousel shirt. That is a prophetic move on the Gleaner's part. Right, because carousel is not dead.
Okay.
Them just resurrected.
But, on Thursday, after it came to the fore that the justices had received this thing.
Increase in their pay,
and then Chuck was saying, no must now.
Right, judgment pass.
I was saying, you can't do that. That is...
Yeah, because right there in that comment, he's implying that they were pussyfooting so they could get more money.
Hey. No, but we said that is not. No, the minister was out of order.
It was completely out of order.
And you see, so we have to split justice right now, not because some people would say, yeah, man, case in point. But what we're saying, we must learn to take issue for issue and be righteous in terms of how we deal with it. You can't allow for something that happened somewhere else to color your judgment. And that's what we normally do, isn't it so?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you take the issue as it is and deal with it. Which is how, that's how God deal with it,
Yeah, when I woke up and saw that beautiful picture of me looking fierce on the front page, you saw it, Lloyd? You'll soon see it. I said, well, what goes into choosing your front page story?
I don't know. It look like them have a trove of pictures.
I said, wow. I mean, that the Gleaner would think that little me, not being able to pay a man $61,000, which is about $10 million, is worthy of front page, right beside the $100 billion the UN Secretary General complaining that $100 billion commitment is it. When I looked at it, I saw absolutely regrettable. I thought, what does that have to do with me? My picture is right beside absolutely regrettable. And I think that was stage 2. And yeah, it is absolutely regrettable that the Gleaner continues to pay me so much attention in my very ordinary affairs. And I think I thank them because there are a lot of people out there who think that I have a lot of money hidden away that I stole or came into unlawfully when I was advising government. And there's always some talk on the street about my secret bank accounts in offshore countries and so on.
Never tell you have a Swiss bank account? I never tell.
Not Swiss. Secret. Well, maybe them have one in Switzerland too. And there's been rumors, I've heard it said that the government has information about accounts with my name on it, and I just wish they would open them up to me because
you would take it.
I could use it and pay Mr. Northover.
Oh boy!
And Mr. Northover has a hotline to the gleaner. There's always someone who gives him, time. And so I'm on the front page again. I decided I would just be here at my position this morning. So anyone who wants to hear about it, or I don't think anybody wants to hear about it really. But I'm here because no matter what happens, we continue to do what God has called us and set us to do. And it's a Gethsemane moment. Nevertheless, not my will. I would love for this cup to pass from me. I'm such a private and shyish kind of person. You hear me speak, and sure, I know what I'm saying, but it's not my desire to be on anybody's front page. You talk about the Universal Service Fund. Of all the great things that I have done in my work life, I don't see them on the front page.
You expect them to do it?
But the fact that I can't pay Mr. Northover on demand is on the front page.
And the article could indicate that they're running away, that they can't find you. But
and I am here 4 days.
Every year.
Yeah. And I mean, yesterday I went by the attorney's office to drop off something. And someone there was able to say that you're on radio, and they saw me on YouTube with Pastor Alf.
Okay.
So they know that I have authority in the spiritual realm.
Oh, somebody. Oh, yes.
I was recognized, and they know my rank.
Okay.
In this nation, you find it on. There is nobody who should be saying they can't find Minette Lawrence. Not a soul.
You always there with me. You can't find me easy.
Listen to me, not a soul. But when I was discussing it with Lowell, I said, but what do you think the scripture means when it says they will look for you and cannot find you? You'll be right there in plain view. And the enemy can't touch you, didn't see you, can't find you.
I will recognize.
So if anyone wants a testimony on what it means that the enemy is seeking you out to do you harm, but walk past you.
You're hid with Christ in God.
Yes.
So they can't touch it.
Yeah.
You go, oh.
I dwell in the secret place of the Most High.
I'm just thinking about
I abide in the shadow of the Almighty.